You're listening to the Midlife Plot Twist podcast, and this is episode 4. Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening to this 4th episode of the Midlife Plot Twist podcast. My name is Jennifer, and I'm a woman in my 40s who is going to leave my career in order to pursue other dreams and ambitions. In the first episode, I very boldly stated that I would be resigning from my position on December 1st or by December 1st. And I just wanted to report that this past week I've been feeling a lot of fear and uncertainty about that timing. My head has been filled with what if questions, like what if there's still a place for me in academia, and the feeling that December 1st is way too soon now that we've entered the month of November. I got a bit ahead of myself, I think, but I also wanted to openly dismiss the question I was asking myself about what if there is still a place in academia for me, because there surely is, and that is besides the point. I'm not leaving academia because I'm being squeezed out or there is no place for me. I'm leaving eventually because it no longer aligns with the values I want to live by and the life that I want to live. And I think I'll talk more about this in a later episode, most likely the next one, actually. So you can stay tuned for that. All right, so this week I want to talk about midlife. Since I've named this podcast the Midlife Plot Twist podcast, I thought I should talk about midlife and why this is significant to me. As I mentioned in the introductory episode, I'm in my 40s. Actually, I mentioned that in the introduction to this episode. And up until a year ago, I hadn't given much thought at all to being in midlife. In fact, I wasn't sure if I was in midlife because to me, midlife still seemed like something for older folks, like my parents' generation, but maybe 10 years ago. I had to consult Google about it. I searched what age range is midlife or something to that effect, and Google told me that for women, midlife is considered to be from the ages 40 to 60. And so I figured I should start getting acquainted with the notion of myself as being in midlife, since I am, after all, in my 40s. I was also dealing with some medical issues at the time that were causing me to really examine my age and think about the stage that I am in. A year and a half ago, I had a hysterectomy, salpingectomy, and oophorectomy. If you don't know what a salpingectomy and oophorectomy are, because I didn't, it's when they remove the ovaries and fallopian tubes as well as the uterus. And the uterus is the hysterectomy part. My doctor was advised from a pathology report that came back from a polyp I had removed that I could have an aggressive form of cancer and that a complete excision was advised. And so we discussed it for a while and decided to go ahead with it. Bye-bye reproductive system, May 2024. I was really taken by surprise by my reaction to the thought of losing my reproductive system. I felt a sense of fear and an extreme sense of loss, even attachment to my uterus. Now, before I go any further, I just want to acknowledge that for some people and for a whole host of reasons, a hysterectomy is something to look forward to. I was on Reddit often enough looking at the hysterectomy posts and saw a whole bunch of reasons why people are being advised or are requesting to get rid of this organ or this system. And so I'm just speaking from my own experience here. When I knew it was going to be removed, I started to think about, I don't know, the first time I got my period and what a production it was to get my dad to take me to the drugstore to get pads. And I started to think about how this organ had protected and allowed my daughter to grow. And I suddenly felt so attached to it. My uterus seemed to be like a symbolic anchor for significant moments in my life growing up and maturing. And that symbolism has, I don't know, it's almost like it's just always been there, but I've never really floating around, but I've never really paid attention to it. Anyway, it forced me to face the reality of menopause. And these things called for me to accept the fact that I'm aging, and that was scary to me. So, that surgery brought to light a whole host of negative beliefs that I held about aging as a woman and about perimenopause and menopause. Although I hadn't consciously thought about these things before, like I mentioned, I had associated midlife with menopause, and both midlife and menopause I associated with a loss of beauty, a loss of sexual attractiveness, a sense of becoming invisible, and just old. It felt like loss and endings all around at first. After a lot of journaling, reflection, and discussion with other women in their 40s, I started to see how midlife is not about loss or the end of something, although it can include these things. For me, as midlife opens up, it has become the moment I am finally free to meet myself for the first time. I'm no longer wasting myself on trying to fit in with others or to be like anyone other than who I am. I care much less about what other people think of me. And I ask myself now more, what do I want to do these days or today or whatever, instead of what should I do or what would they have me do? Something that has really helped me to begin associating myself with the age and stage of life that I'm in was the conscious decision to look for things like Instagram creators and accounts. I'm on Instagram quite a bit. Made by people in their 40s and 50s. I realized that I had no role models, no examples of women of my age who were killing it at life. Women who are vibrant, gorgeous, ambitious, and content. All there was in my feed was youthfulness and glow and clothing styles for mid-sized women in their 30s. So I made a conscious decision to search for women in their 40s and 50s to follow, to search for blogs and podcasts, and it is making a world of difference. I'm still on this mission right now, as a matter of fact. I'm searching for my role models and archetypes that represent the best of who I want to become as I age. And there's a real sense of empowerment and freedom in realizing that I don't need to prove myself to anyone anymore. And it's a real new sense of self-confidence that I'm experiencing in my 40s. And I don't give a shit what the other people think of me anymore kind of attitude. And thank goodness for that. When I Googled midlife, a lot of pages about crisis, about weight gain and how to lose weight in midlife, how to lose belly fat, and about being in shape, and these kinds of stress-inducing things came up. Never mind all the, I don't know, directives to eat X number of grams of protein. And anyways, we're just bombarded with these things about our bodies. And of course, we should be working on our health and to be healthy and everything like that. But it's just, it's crisis. But for me, midlife seems to be an opportunity for me to get really intentional about my life and to get to know myself better. And it actually feels like a coming home to myself, except that I'm coming home and realizing that I have outgrown the house that I'm coming back to, and I need to do some renovations. There's a quiet kind of bravery, I think, in being able to say to myself now, this life doesn't fit me anymore. And that includes my career. I also, as I said in the first episode, do not want to spend the second half of my life in the survival mode of the first. And I think that my career in particular encourages that. So, yes, I've also had dreams that I've held on to since I was a little girl. and feel that now is the time for me to give them a shot. I'm leaving for Hollywood in the morning. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not. I've never wanted to be an actress. A singer, yes. An actress, no. Okay, so it's all pretty exciting stuff actually. As I look ahead to this coming week and I'm still processing my thoughts on leaving my career, I feel scared and excited. As I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, I've been doing a lot of backpedaling this week about whether or not I will resign and when. But as of right now, anyways, I'm choosing to take a deep breath and trust. Trust that things are unfolding as they should and that I'm doing everything in my power at the moment to take care of myself, to recover physically or to work on myself physically because I am still dealing with chronic illness, to prepare myself mentally and emotionally for whatever is next, and take little steps as the inspiration to do so arises. So I'd like to wrap this all up by saying that midlife is a big shift and that can come with some endings, but it also comes with some potent beginnings that are full of potential. One of the gifts I think comes with midlife is the possibility of clarity. I can choose to see myself with truth and courage and love now and make gold out of the next half of my life. Okay, so I think that's it for this episode. As always, please get in touch. Tell me how you're liking the podcast so far and tell me what's going on for you in your world. My email is midlifeplottwistpodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out the Instagram for this podcast under the same name. And finally, I've started a Substack account for those of you who might enjoy reading sometimes. It's under the same name as well, Midlife Plot Twist Podcast. Again, all one word. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you for writing. And until next week, be well.